We are live. This is the market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. Besant is coming. The printer is probably already on. We're too busy being afraid to notice. Bitcoin is holding. Easter is coming. And I have a feeling the Easter present from our friends both at, our friends at just about every central bank, whether the central bank is our friends or not, they're coming. Consumer, kaplooey. Right now, what does this all mean? What should you buy? What should you do? Here's the great news. I just got off the YouTube member podcast, right? We have a new group of HODL coins, which will shock you. So we're done with the boring stuff from last cycle, right? We got new stuff in there, new small caps coming, as well as what's fiscal stimulus going to look like? What's monetary policy going to look like? Okay. The bond market problems. Could there be a problem with stable coins? Here's a hint: buy Bitcoin. Okay. When I asked her about stable coins, you want to listen to that just to hear what she had to say. Because she doesn't know boo about what backs Tether and Circle. She doesn't know anything about that. She's like, watch the show. LuxAlgo, ETH on the discount zone. Hello. I'm going to start pounding the table on ETH. 5-wave bottom in ETH from the Bill Noble indicator, where you can check a wide range of cryptos. And you know what? I am actively scraping the money together personally to get there. Again, Bitcoin Vegas. Dude, if they have an announcement for this conference, if they were ever going to say anything about Bitcoin, that's where they got to do it. Everybody had a ticket for Bitcoin Nashville and was real hot when the Orange Man went. Okay, now if it's Besant and they get up there with Michael Saylor and they have an announcement, watch out. Okay, also, you know, could also be a buying climax potentially, or it could actually be something that impacts altcoins. It'd be pretty funny. I thought about this if altcoins took off the Bitcoin conference. That would be kind of funny. In any case, the YouTube member area, we have a discussion about long-term upside price targets in antivirus. So like the antivirus roadmap, the energy around it, fascinating conversations about small coins and how they look, how they work. Again, not giving up on that. The more heat I take, the more bullish I get. It's that simple. It's that simple. I mean, they're cursing me off on Twitter every single day. Not only are they cursing me off, they're after like the small guys with 3 kids on Twitter. Guys with like 200 followers. They're afraid of antivirus. They are afraid. And you think they're afraid now, wait until I get loose. Wait until they come out with more of these privacy features. You just wait. You just wait. Okay. She called it suppressed energy. Again, probably one of the best YouTube member podcasts, and a quick glance in banter bubbles of big caps. Or big caps for Toby. A big cap now is like 400 to 500 market cap. Okay. Ton coin is, I'll give you one free Ton coin. Got to get in there. Got to check it out. It's a must. Okay. Let's welcome the loyal warriors who are still here despite this market being horse, you know what. Thomas, Grandpa Keeter, watching the show all morning with his McAfee emoji. The Fuzz Crypto, Cosmic Contrarian, a new member. Welcome. Ben B from Tampa. See ya in Vegas. Donato, Tussle, Daniel J, Brandon, what's up? Yav is back. Chris Frank. Never given up on antivirus. You carry me out, ring my doorbell, take me out. I live in Texas. Go right ahead. Crypto Crazed Knowledge with the $9 super chat in appreciation for the great work. Sir, you have no idea. I sincerely appreciate you and everyone who watches the show. By the way, hit the notification button. If you don't have 5 cents, which I understand, you don't have 5 cents, hit the notification button. Turn on that bell so you know when we're going live. That helps the channel. We need it. Need it. Okay. So things are just great out there. Not. Consumers can't get car loans. Alex on his show yesterday detailed everything that's going on with his relatives, people who are a quarter of an inch away from bankruptcy, working 3 jobs. Guess what? Guess what? This is a major problem. Nobody will loan money for cars. Nobody can afford the cars. People are turning in the keys to houses. The housing market is going to crash. That's already on, right? It's already on. And Toby handled how they're going to handle it in the YouTube member area. All I can say is they are coming. Besant, the Fed, Congress, everybody's coming. Like they are just absolutely going to print money. This is a disaster. I mean, it was easier to buy a car around cough, cold, and flu. I walked in and I bought a car near cough, cold, and flu. Probably just before. Oh, you can't get qualifications now because who can pay? Nobody. So good luck. Have fun with this. Have fun raising prices of autos on tariffs. Good luck. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. 30-year mortgage rates at 7.5% due to Chinese selling of longer dated treasuries. Yeah, that's going to work out well. It's kind of funny. They wanted treasury rates lower because of the tariffs, and they wound up higher. Whoops. That's a problem. That's a problem. But the thing is, when they come in, this drops like a stone. Like, I mean, if you're Besant and you're in your office, or you're Powell, or you're any of these guys, right? And you're looking at this, you're like, dude, we're going in. We're going in over Easter. Every day that we sit with this, every day that we let the Chinese push us around with this, it's unacceptable. It's a national security risk. They're coming in. Yeah, governments have come in on less relevant, less serious stuff. I mean, Bernanke, that pencil neck geek, he came in with QE when the stock market went down 5%. They wouldn't let the stock market go down 5% before he came in with QE. Yellen was the same way. Okay, so you had 25% down in stocks, 30% down in crypto. Risk assets got wrecked, but now this stuff's getting wrecked. This is not funny, right? This is their stock market. So they look at this, they're coming in. You want to sell, right? I mean, we discussed stable coins that own treasuries and government bonds. You got a $1 trillion problem in government bonds. You're going to have consternation because of that. That's not avoidable. So they're coming in. They're coming in now. They're coming in on Easter. They're coming in after Easter, or it's D, all the above. The 30-year mortgage rate cannot be at 7.5% without banks or major problems. People turn it into keys. We'll talk about it. The number of single-family home sales has surged to 500,000, the highest since, November of 2007, the last housing crisis. Everybody looking to sell, no bid at all. None. There's no bid. Everyone's like, oh, this is a crash, and that's a crash. And Ray Dalio's like, oh, my God, this is the crash. This is the crash. People turn in the keys. The banks market sell the houses. Instant 40% markdown, no bid. No bid. Not with a 30-year mortgage rates at 7.5%. No bid at all. Now, probably there's people in the administration who wouldn't mind a good old-fashioned housing crash, considering BlackRock has done nothing but, buy single-family homes to try to turn us all into serfs. So I would be so brokenhearted if Larry's portfolio dropped 60% in one day. And again, the harder home values drop. I know somebody who had a condo in Vegas when this blew up in 2007. I don't know. They paid $350,000 for a condo that was worth $125,000 after the crash. They drove down to the bank and turned in the keys. They said, hey, we're done. We're not going to make the payment on this because it's worth 1/3 of what we paid. Why would we pay on this? See ya. It's happening. Tariffs are crashing the dollar. So this guy's a little late. It's a little late. Okay, we talk about the dollar and rates in the YouTube member area. I think it's obvious. I think you could have a gap move down in the dollar. I think Besant and the Treasury are coming in. And you got to remember, with European and religious Western holidays, Asia is going to be on its own. So if you wanted to do something in the liquid market to try to make an impact, who knows what the Chinese are going to do? Who knows what's going to happen to the dollar? It's going lower. It's going massively lower. Now, is it going to go lower now? I don't know, but I know they're coming in with QE. They're coming in with something. M2 money supply growth is pamping, right? Mainland China money supply. Soon to be followed by United States. And it's funny, the Japanese, they have a problem with their bond market and they can't print, but that could change too. And I know the Europeans are going to have to print. They're talking about borrowing $3 trillion to fight the Russians. So good luck with that. Good luck having the market absorb that supply. UK gilts are collapsing. Their rates are going up. I'm not going to bother showing it. They're going to print. Okay. 2000, a relatively unknown firm called Jane Street Capital is now taking 18-year-olds, giving them AI and making tons of money. So let me ask you something. And I've talked about this. Who do you want? Do you want an 18-year-old that doesn't know anything and give him a chatbot and an algo? Or do you want some crusty old grumpy guy with ear hair like Dalio on TV telling you the world's going to end? I'll take the 18-year-old. I wake up every day and I try to think like an 18-year-old. An 18-year-old is going to look at this and go, you know what? This is bunk. Push my computer button. Okay. But Bitcoin, okay, I'll go see what the psychic has to say in the YouTube member area. Let's see what the computer says. And just market buy this stuff. Jane Street Capital doing well with a bunch of 18-year-olds. Okay, Orange Man already telling you that they're coming. They're coming, right? The tariff conversation is going to turn into a print-a-thon. The subject is they're pivoting, right? The market's bored of all this, fighting over tariffs. The Chinese can't win this war, right? They're trying to put maximum pressure on them, basically to try to make their whole system crack. In fact, that just kind of occurred to me. Maybe the best way to get rates down is to have them crater. Maybe it's not about tariffs. Maybe it's not about revenue. It's just about crushing them. I don't mind. I don't think neither does anybody else based on the propaganda that they're pumping out. Okay, so the Canadians doing a 6-month tariff relief. So they're not going to do tariffs on, I like this. The exceptions are anything that's used in manufacturing, processing, food, beverage, and packaging. Right. They're not putting tariffs on anything, right? They're just going to do what the Orange Man says, I think, right? And I'm sick of all these like massive left-wing countries telling us how things are going to be, right? GFU. Honda to increase manufacturing in the United States. S&P 500 companies are experiencing the worst earnings revisions since the onset of cough, cold, and flu, which was the last massive print-a-thon. It's a print-a-thon, right? They're just going to have to print now. That's it. And it's kind of funny. Maybe that was the ultimate design. The ultimate design is we crater everything. We don't know quite how it works. And then Bessent comes in, followed by Powell. And Bessent's already told you that they're coming. U.S. consumers exhausted. The outlook of America's middle earners has dropped the most. People are destroyed. Seriously. And it's been the case for a while. Just that, Brandon's fake unemployment numbers where Uncle Sugar was employing everybody just hit it all. And the Orange Man just came in and literally just pulled the cover off it all. I mean, it's been a recession for 2 years. Everyone's like, oh, we're going into a recession. No, Nvidia holders are going to have to go from steak to chicken. Okay, the rest of us went steak to chicken 3 years ago. 3 years ago. It's happening. Bessent is coming in. Nvidia will get all the necessary permits. Nvidia building in the United States. Okay. Companies are going to quickly figure out the faster they announce projects, the faster they start building, the better the tax treatment. They're going to get all the sweetheart deals. Just like when it comes to laying people off, the first round of people get 9 months of pay plus benefits. The last round of people get 2 weeks, if that. Same thing with these incentives, right? The quicker you start building, the quicker you're on top of it, the better treatment you get from the orange man. This is what they really want. They want all these factories and all these facilities and all these photo ops and jobs online for the midterm elections in 2 years. That's what's really going on here. In the meantime, if they wreck everything, it's just an excuse for them to change the tax structure or just print. Again, the details are in the YouTube member area. Trump administration says the U.S. may buy Bitcoin using tariff revenue. I love it when you talk to me like that, baby. We could only get so lucky. It's funny how this 3 months ago, the market would have been up 10% on this kind of talk. Now it's like they sell the market. You can't even get Bitcoin above the 200-day moving average. And frankly, I'm just convinced they'll just the market just will sit here and make it look like total garbage. And it'll make you not want to be long, not want to be involved. It's over. It's happening to me. The cycle's over. You start telling yourself this whole bull nonsense story. And then you just wake up one day and Besant is in. They're in. Stocks tumble after EU tariff comments. Okay, right. Okay. The European Union, regrettably, is like run by people with the same mentality as North Korea. My heart goes out to the citizens of Europe. It does. Okay, a very interesting documentary on Vitalik. I love a documentary about Vitalik coming out when nobody thinks there's a use for Ethereum after real-world assets give you a nice little scare. By the way, if you want to know what to do about real-world assets, we actually have a whole scope on that in that latest podcast. There's a use case for Ethereum now. If you have a layer 1 implode, okay, that layer 1 might be a buy, but anybody who's going to tell me that we don't need DeFi highways, like how about ETH-based stable coins? Like, you know, what other stable coins are there? Like DAI. Like DAI's a good stable coin. They hold their reserves in crypto. What about stable coins that are holding treasuries? What happens if somebody wants to put ETH and do ETH staking instead of stable coins? What happens if ETH is better than treasuries? You can get yield on ETH. What about ETH DeFi? Okay, nobody thinks there's anything that's ever going to happen on ETH right before it actually happens. Literally, like the ETH use case, where you got a problem in the government bond market, which you could have a problem with interest rate risk management. You know, this whole thing about, oh, Tether's making, you know, $50 billion per employee or whatever the hell it is. Okay. All right. Well, let's just let's put the rubber glove on. Let's do a little check of your interest rate risk management models and decide what you want to own. Do you want to own Tether and Circle, or do you want to own Bitcoin and Ethereum? I report, you decide. Wait until you see what she said about that. She doesn't know boo about it. I'm like, yeah, here's a problem. What do you think? And I was like, oh my God. Besant, not seeing dumping of treasuries. Liar. Besant, no evidence of sales of treasuries. Liar. Okay. They're coming in. Right. This is code for it. We're coming in. Oh, yeah, no. You know, everything's fine in the treasury market. Yeah, because they're going to make it fine. They cannot have the 30-year mortgage rate at 7.5%. They cannot stop the Chinese from selling. So they're just going to have to come in with heavy wood. They're just coming in with heavy wood. And you'll know that they come in with heavy wood because you'll wake up one day and Bitcoin will be up 15%. I mean, I don't know. I think you're being told here, right? Besant says everything on the table, including raising taxes on the wealthy, right? So what does that mean? Well, that means they're going to start helping poor people. So for every dollar they take from the wealthy, how many dollars are they going to print? And then how many dollars are they going to do on fiscal stimulus, which you want to hear about? Toby talking about it this morning. Okay, a member request for Ondo. So let's get right on that. Okay, we have a lot to say about real world assets. Okay, so one of the things I think you can do with Ondo is assume BlackRock is involved, because they are. There's a lot of good support in Ondo near, I don't know, LuxAlgo put support underneath it. The bottom of it is 78 cents. LuxAlgo did a buy signal, and all I can tell you with real world asset projects is you better do your own research. From a technical analysis standpoint, this looks fine. Money flow starting to come in. Again, like her picks for hodling, let's just say I was a little bit surprised. This is not about tariffs. Something worse than a recession. Yeah, okay, Ray. You're about 2 years too late for that. They're coming in. He cannot be right. He cannot be right. I mean, if you're at the Fed and you're at the Treasury and you're seeing this guy, he cannot be right. And all the hedge funds who are saying, well, the governments never get it. All these banana republics, they always wait too long. You know, they always do a half measure. Everything they do is too late. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then if half measures don't work, then, you know, we'll wait. We won't wait to panic. We'll just come with massive lumber now. I mean, if you wait for the next problem, the next debacle, then I don't know, the market might perceive you as being weak. Whereas if you use a holiday to just come out of nowhere, that would be a much better play if you ask me. One day, if I ever get to be Treasury Secretary, maybe they'll let me do it. I don't know. Hedge funds selling European stocks at the fastest rate in 2 weeks. I'm sorry, at the fastest pace for 2 weeks in a row. So everyone's selling, everyone in, everyone out, everyone out, everyone out, everyone short, long 2-year notes, short S&P. And what happens if they come in? What happens if they come in? Meaning the printer, whatever. They're just coming in, right? You know, if they use the quiet market, there's a saying, don't short the quiet market. Now, can there be a problem? Can there be an accident? Can there be a problem in Asia? I mean, if they don't come in the next 3 weeks, they're idiots. That's all I can say, right? But Bessett is telling you, oh yeah, there's no problem. Yeah, okay. I think they're coming in huge. That's my opinion. Chinese yuan falling apart. So there's components to the Chinese currency, some that they let the market do, some that they try to control themselves. They're losing control. China state firms try to boost share price to stabilize plunging market. Good luck with that. Good luck, right? They're going to have to print. They're going to have to print. China is dying out. Population on track to totally collapse. Nothing anyone's going to do about it. They're not in a good position. China would lose a trade war with the U.S. gradually and then suddenly. And the orange man knows it. China doesn't want to make a deal. China can't make a deal. China just has to hope that it all goes away. And I think what we want to do is just break their whole system. Seriously, just break their system. Right? What are you going to do? Their system was tattering to begin with. So you give us what we want. You stop undermining us globally with your 50-year plan. TikTok getting shut off is next. They don't care. Like all this stuff is beginning to look like anti-China propaganda. So some of it's true and some of it's BS. So China halts all deliveries of Boeing jets. Ooh, I'm so scared. Chinese press reports that certain Chinese banks have cut deposit rates below 2%. So they're cutting rates everywhere. Chinese rates are going to zero. Another stock market stimmy. So they're trying to get people involved in their own stock market. China media calls for reserve requirement cuts. Just, cut and print. They don't have a choice. They were cutting and printing to begin with. The bazooka that they're going to have to come out with over there is going to be unbelievable. And I keep trying to remind everybody that the Bitcoin ETF runs out of Hong Kong now. Again, a totally underreported story. Okay. Okay. So this whole idea that China is going to take over the world, that's kind of like a big Ray Dalio thing. They're a 40% command economy run by a totalitarian state. Okay. Aging population, not enough young people, 1 billion people in poverty, and a deeply corrupt system. So yeah, that's the world's new reserve currency. I mean, yeah, I know we have massive problems too, but yeah, I'll stick with Bitcoin. Thanks. Peter Thiel backs Trump's trade revolution targeting China up until his taxes go up. Okay, Laura Loomer is on the Chinese case about, vape products. So, when these conservative influencers are on this, that, the anti-China thing has become propaganda, right? They're trying to get the American public fired up, either because more hardship is ahead or they're looking to justify extraordinary measures, whatever that is. Chinese president trying to tell the Vietnamese not to make a deal with the orange man. Vietnam is a huge competitor to China on low-cost labor. China, how do you know when China market's open? Gold spikes. So the Chinese are buying gold every day because they got to back their currency. They're just market buying it now. Gold is a reserve asset for central banks, right? They need it. Russians need it. We need it. I think they need it more than everybody. They're the ones who are market buying it. And that's fine. People who are long gold are probably doing really well, right? And then you're going to wake up one day and Besant's going to be in the market and off it goes. At Bitcoin, that is. And I think ETH too, right? This whole idea that ETH has no use case, that we don't need a different banking system. Oh my God, people, you better rethink this. Okay. Ron Paul is against any future geopolitical conflict in the Middle East. God, if they did that, that would be absolutely insane. What would it take for Bitcoin to top all-time highs? The printing press. That's what it would take. It would. XRP, a bright spot. There's an XRP chart out this morning about XRP going to $28. And we discussed that on the YouTube member area. And let's just say, if you're looking for a credible opinion on XRP at $28, you might go into the YouTube member area and check out our podcast. Another Swedish lawmaker pushes to add Bitcoin to national reserves. How long do you think it's going to take for either governments or people in Europe to realize that the only path to freedom and privacy that they have is through crypto? What has to happen over there? I'm wondering. Tariffs may help U.S. Bitcoin reserve build out. Don't tease me. XRP Moonboy price targets are back. $10 with an optimistic target of $20. Okay, so people are bored. But, what happens in the next alt run-up? What happens if the second half of this year is all about altcoins and memes? Nobody dares utter the words alt season. Nobody dares say it. We gave you the order that we want to buy altcoins in the YouTube member area. Once people figure out crypto, what will stop it? I understand you're probably like, wow, is this ever going to start? The bond market BS, the tariff stuff all over the tape. How does this get started? Well, that's a good question, because this market's a pain in the ass, right? It's a pain in the ass. But what happens when it starts? Like, once it starts, what stops it? Once they turn on the printer, what stops it? I give you the answer. Nothing. Nothing. Especially if they're doing all kinds of stimulus and they're buying it along with corporations and individuals. Like, what happens if everybody hits the green button at the same time? It could happen. Bitcoin ETFs, everyone out. Everybody in. At 109, it was amazing. But at 80, I can't take it anymore. I want out. I'm going to stick with bonds. Wow, that's going to work out good, homie. Bonds and stable coins. Yeah, I'm going to get out of Bitcoin and Ethereum and get in bonds and stable coins. Right. You got to date with a stretcher if you're doing that. I'm serious. You could be done. If you have a temporary depeg in a stable coin because of bond market risk, okay, yeah, you're going to have epic crypto volatility when that happens. But coming out of that volatility, you're going to see the printer, because if it gets to that point, I can't even believe they're going to let it get to that point. But if they do, they're just coming in. They're coming in twice as big as I think they are now. Okay, Bitcoin RSI, right? Omar, is this Omar? No, not Omar. You had a lower low in price and a higher low in RSI. It's there. It's there. Okay. Japanese bonds stir unease as Bitcoin recovers from tariff panic. The yield on the 30-year Japanese government bonds has surged to its highest yield since 2004. So rates are supposed to be going down and they're going up. Every government bond market, UK, Japan, US, all getting sold. All of them, right? And that could be the Chinese, or that could be just Mr. Market going, we're done with this. We're done with this. Everyone's like, oh, you got to be in bonds. You got to be in Bitcoin. It's the Bitcoin standard. Everybody's like, oh, gradually. Then suddenly everyone talks about this. Where the hell are the Bitcoin maxis? Why aren't the Bitcoin maxis on the tape? Like Michael Saylor's on the tape and Cynthia Loomis did an article with CoinDesk, but where are these guys? Where's Benjamin Cohen? Why aren't they screaming at the top of their lungs? Buy everything. This is everything they ever wanted, right? This is everything they ever wanted. Bitcoin and KuCoin hit by a problem with Amazon Web Services, courtesy of the Chinese, no doubt, right? No doubt. We view individual investor equity buying decisions as more influenced by their employment status than the equity market itself. Okay? Yeah. Meaning, if people have a job, they'll buy equities in crypto. If they don't have a job, they're turning the keys into the bank. And of course, right? Okay. So, wrong again. I'm going to get to this in a second. JP Morgan CEO says there's very little stress at the consumer level. Huh. Okay. Yeah. That's because they got all the bad loans. It's unbelievable, right? There's no end to their desire to deceive you. None. And that alone makes the case. That alone makes the case, I think. Or maybe I'm just a fool. Okay, so, it has not worked out for total crypto market cap around 2.7 trillion, right? I could tell you that I want to buy dips. I could tell you could wait for this breakout and just go with it. I think as long as Bitcoin is holding 82, I don't have a problem trying to get long. I don't have a problem trying to get long Bitcoin. The market just trades kind of meh. I mean, total 2. Here's the argument for total 2, right? Money flow is starting to go positive. So total 2 is total crypto market cap without Bitcoin. In other words, ETH, XRP, Solana, everything. Do you realize that this thing is 16% below its 200-day moving average? That's how wrecked crypto is. 16% below the 200-day moving average. Wow. Okay. A total 3 is probably the same thing, less so. Total 2 is probably worse because of ETH, but even still, altcoins as a group all have LuxAlgo buy signals. And some improvement in this money flow indicator. I know it sucks. I know they're after Solana. I know guys want to be short it. The dawn of the day comes. Like people are asking us. Somebody asked me on the YouTube member stream, what do I look at? Well, obviously you're going to look, like outside of price. Like what do you look at, right? And what you want to see is you want to see the day trading mentality stop working. Stop working, right? In other words, obviously these guys have made a fortune, right? Every time it goes up, they short it, it makes a new low. It goes up, they do a false breakout, they short it, it crashes, right? These guys have been making money. Now, when they try to short it and it doesn't work and it rallies in their face, I know that's price, but that style of price action is what you need to start a bigger trend. Okay? Here's your XRP math of the day. Grok confirms that if XRPL captures 10% of Hidden Road's volume, XRP will be at $28 per token. I think this is what we talk about when we're bored. The Canadians are launching a Solana ETF. That's fascinating. How about you close the thought crime division first? Okay, here comes the UK financial papers. How Wall Street got Donald Trump wrong. They're not wrong about that. Everyone thought that this was going to be good for business. Turns out that is not true. Not true. Okay, Trump chaos promotes big pension funds to cool on the United States. Right. Everyone's going to get out of the United States, and what are you going to buy? Seriously, what are you going to buy? Other than the Bitcoin ETF. Like, if you don't want to be in the United States, you must want to be in the Bitcoin ETF. Jesse Pollak thinks Pump.Fun was fine, whereas Vitalik didn't. At this point, I would take a return to memes just to get some enthusiasm back in the crypto market, right? Bitcoin corporations continue to buy relentlessly. Artificial intelligence, trading artificial intelligence, something we will again feature in the YouTube member area next podcast, along with small caps. Somebody apparently wrote a country music song, and I don't know, they say it's better than what Garth Brooks would have done or some big famous country singer, and this is happening in real time. And I don't know if there's any other way to trade it for small guys other than the decentralized AI market in crypto. Cynthia Loomis. When are they going to give Cynthia Loomis some help? I think Besson is going to give Cynthia Loomis some help by just literally turning on the printer. Because I don't know how you can have the 30-year mortgage rate at 7.5% going into a major holiday and have the Chinese looking like they're pushing you around. Seriously. Right? It's just crazy banana pants. Metaplanet acquires another 300 Bitcoin. They bought the high. They might as well keep going. The number of addresses holding between 1 and 10K Bitcoin has been going up steadily, with the accumulation picking up the pace in April. It's going to double. As soon as the tariff talk stops and they come in to help the consumer, El Salvador every day. Okay, the English left-wing newspapers. Critics slam deregulation of crypto as Trump family expands its footprint in the industry. Oh my God. Fund independent journalism, brought to you by North Korea. In the long run, economic freedom always wins over communism. Okay? Beijing imposes restrictions on daily net equity sales by hedge funds and large retail investors. So you have capital controls, and even Coinbase is piling on the communists. They're not in a good position. All he's got to do is keep them in a state of uncertainty. And it could be, like I said, a grand scheme to come in, create uncertainty, and then have Besson and Powell come in huge. OpenAI challenging Elon. You know what? A little competition is a good thing. I don't mind. Bitcoin outperforms S&P every year, and no one is interested. Okay. Crypto companies still, the second round included robotics ventures. Okay. It's got to be robotics plays and AI plays in crypto. It's just a question of finding them. Okay. A TA break. Okay. No cooperation on TA. Billionaire and massive Democratic donor covers massive Social Security fraud. Wrong again is like, I don't trust the guys over at Skynet. Also a valid opinion. Okay, Solana on a 4-hour chart. So again, the day trader mentality, right? It approaches resistance at 140. They'll try to get short. If that doesn't work, you know it's on. That's just how it works, right? Okay, ETH is holding support at 1,600. High hopes for ETH over the holiday. Okay, Bitcoin, again, no one interested in paying anything near a high end of a range. No one interested in higher prices. No one interested unless they come in. That's the bet, really. If you're long Bitcoin at 84 or 83 or something like that, you're basically betting that they're coming in. And the bottom of the range is at 75. That's it. It's a bet. Okay, UK going full 1984. Thought crime. Will AI take your job? Okay, well, I don't know if AI takes everyone's job, because the question with AI isn't whether it's good or it's bad. The question is it effective? And are the goals in line with what humanity wants? That comes from a book called Life 3.0, which I'm determined to get through. Now, that said, there has to be a way to trade this. And there's no way what we called in the YouTube member podcast, a suppressed token like antivirus cannot eventually benefit from this. Okay. You have a member request on the German Bund. Okay. Let's see if I can get this going. Okay, so German 10-year yields have been falling, right? So this is the Chinese rotating from the US 10-year note over into the Bund, right? So sell US treasuries, sell the dollar, buy the euro, buy bonds. Just switching the bond portfolio around. The Germans are okay with it, I would imagine, right? Everyone else's yields are going up and their yields are going down. More demand for the euro, less demand for the dollar. So they are benefiting from this, and I'm sure they're happy about it. I'm sure they are absolutely happy about it. So as we said yesterday, there's a new thing that takes effect in the United States in 2 weeks, right? Real ID. Can't get on an airplane without real ID. Privacy. You need it. And if you can buy it cheap, you should do it. Okay. Reserve rights. Okay. So reserve rights has got to do with the creation of stable coins, if I believe I'm correct. We may need some new stable coins. I don't know what's going to happen with stable coins. I don't. So money has been flowing into reserve rights. Is a good LuxAlgo buy signal here. Usually you get the dip thereafter. It doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look great. It's like broken out of this triangle by going sideways. Generally speaking, I've been a reserve rights fan in the past. I think the Fed and the Treasury are coming in because this problem with treasuries is pervasive. And you can tell if they're running into the German Bund, there's a problem. Will this positively or negatively affect reserve rights? I strongly suggest you do fundamental analysis and find out if there's any U.S. Treasury interest rate risk associated with any stable coin or DeFi product. That's what I suggest. Okay. Let's see what else we got on TA. Okay. We got XRP on a daily chart. Okay. No one wants to touch it at 231. Again, you can see the problem. No one is interested going into a holiday. You can tell they're afraid of equities. Matter of fact, let's just look at equities, because I think that's the problem. Everyone's just afraid, right? You have this big gap here in SPY on the 4-hour chart. This does look like a selling climax to me. Everyone hates equities. It's funny. Everyone hates equities, but the problem is in bonds, not stocks. Okay. Fartcoin. $800 million market cap. You go. Pent up demand for fun. Fartcoin. I don't know. What's the cup and handle target? I don't know. Let's calculate it. I want to say it's probably at the cup and handle target. Maybe. No. Cup and handle target is $1.12. Obviously, they're afraid of $1. I hope Fartcoin goes to $1 billion. I hope it goes to $2 billion. Because you know why? Because the legacy guys hate it. They all danced on our grave. You know, what they did on our grave didn't pass for flowers when the crypto market cracked. Now the joke is on them. The joke is on them. Because I can tell you right now, and we may have done this yesterday, a 60-40 portfolio is not working. It's not. Okay. Oh, somebody asking for DXY. I'd be happy to do it. Okay, so there's a couple things about DXY that you need to understand. One, it's probably oversold. DXY going to zero is now consensus, I think. Now, that said, the old high, the old support was 100, and now it's retesting 100. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons to think that the dollar is done for now, okay? But if it fails at 100, it's going to fail badly and go back down again. Now, if the dollar is at its discount zone, so the dollar devaluation may take a pause that refreshes. If gold is endlessly bid, but at its premium zone, what's the next leg of the dollar devaluation? What's the next leg? Well, I don't know. Ethereum is 250%, 150% away from its discount, from its premium zone, and 174% away from equilibrium at 2,700. No one wants to touch it. You know, and the Bitcoin ETF, like let's just have a laugh and look at I haven't looked at the Bitcoin ETF to see where that is relative to like some of these crypto stocks. So the Bitcoin ETF, the equilibrium price is like 45. Okay. And the Bitcoin ETF, to get back to its premium zone, is a 25% move. That's a big move. So, okay, you want to do the dollar devaluation trade. Okay, what do you want to do? Well, long gold. Okay, well, that's overbought. Sell the dollar index. Okay, well, that might take a break. What's next? It's got to be Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's got to be. It's got to be. Right? I mean, how could it not be? Right? And the thing that's amazing is, you know, they really want to sell. They can't control themselves. Let's see what a weekly chart of MicroStrategy looks like. So you got yourself a big reversal last week, back above equilibrium on the weekly chart. I don't know, man. Best comes in and all these hedge funds are short these stocks. I mean, I understand why you want to look at the dollar index. I get it. I get it. So tactically overbought MicroStrategy. What you want is you want there to be a pullback and you want it to hold and turn higher. Otherwise, we're going this back and forth, up and down range thing, which, you know, traders love and I hate. Okay. MicroStrategy gaps up, fills the gap, stalls. I don't know, man. A lot of room up there to 412. Wedge funds short. Drooling over this thing, man. Drooling over this thing. Wrong again. Think 1,600 ETH is a buy, right? 1,600 ETH is a buy. Best time to buy was 64K Black Monday. You know, I hope I can leave this here for a very long time. I scheduled it months in advance. Literally months in advance. I don't know why. Probably because there was like Gann formations like coming out of the eclipse. I wanted the first available appointment. Okay. This thing that I did with Coinbase on Black Monday. Okay. Will the economic crisis push Bitcoin to new highs? Everyone's talking about the end of the world. I wanted to talk about Bitcoin. Every time I see Ray Dalio's voice, every time I see his face on the news, I'm going to hit the green button. We're going to play a game. Every time we see Dalio, every time there's a LinkedIn article, every time there's another 1,000-word essay about how, again, Bridgewater's made so much money. So it's not like I'm dissing the guy, but I'm just saying the concept of a positive outcome has not occurred to anybody. And if Bessent and Powell and the Orange Man don't understand that the consumer could crack if they don't do something now, and the best time to do it is over Easter when it's quiet and they can get some shock value, right? Best time to do it when no one's paying attention, which would be now. Then the second best time to do it is at Bitcoin Vegas. Can you imagine what happened? Here's a laugh. What would happen at Bitcoin Vegas if they came out and made some kind of huge announcement, whether it's QE or Treasury buyback or Bitcoin strategic reserve or whatever? What happens if there's an announcement at Easter and Memorial Day and they come out and hit it with both barrels? I mean, I can't believe anyone thinks that the Orange Man is going to sit in the White House and let the Chinese have an advantage for 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, right? I mean, really, I'm going to look at Bitcoin because, look, I know you're doing it. I do the same thing. I look at this thing and I'm like, oh my God, this thing just trades like total garbage, right? When it goes down, it goes way down. And when it rallies, it doesn't move at all. It just kind of like sits there. You're like, oh, I hate this, right? It's driving me crazy. It's driving me crazy. But then you look at what Bessent is saying, you look at the consumer imploding, and what choice do they have? They don't have a choice. Rates are going the wrong way, and the only way to stop that is just to push so much money into the system that it absorbs anything the Chinese are trying to do. And again, the Chinese are going to have to print on their end. The only way to stop government bonds from rising is to buy all the government bonds. And the only way to do that is QE, right? So you got great interest rates, all the bonds are down. So it's a great time to come in for the governments and somehow, one way or the other, inject high-powered money in the system, right? If you're in Bitcoin, this should be your moment. This should be your moment where the system gradually and then suddenly in your favor. Again, middle tier offering, Patreon. We had a reaction to the Ohm mess, right? They got the first reaction off of that. What that could mean for different products. Again, a wealth of information, a new list of altcoins to absolutely get after, particularly if you have stablecoin consternation. You have a problem with this bond market? Again, they can come in now or they can come in with twice the lumber later. I'm okay with it. No one's going to get me off of Bitcoin. I don't care what happens. Like in every single scenario, to me, it feels like everything comes back to Bitcoin and everything comes back to ETH, right? Because the only way to trade the dollar devaluation is through those two instruments, at least when you consider technical analysis. You can't buy stocks. You can't buy bonds. Gold's overbought. Shorting the dollar is, been done. So now what are you going to do? Okay. My camera lens is dirty. I will take care of that. All right, people. That is it for today. We will see you tomorrow.